Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Artorigold, and today I'd like to go over Doomfist. So with the current meta being a lot of focus around double shields with Sigma and Orisa, I think Doomfist is a very viable DPS pick, mostly because he doesn't really care about shields. Not only can you really bully people on the backline as usual, but you can also really deal a lot of damage and harassment to Sigma. Sigma has really nothing that can stop you unless he is able to land an E or his rock ability to stun you, but most of the time, if you're playing Doomfist right and you're planning your engagements, and of course if you have all of your cooldowns so you can escape, then the rock is going to be very difficult for him to land on you, and you really shouldn't have much of an issue with it. So one of the first things that I'd like to go over is basically how your engagements with Doomfist should work. Most of the time you want to try and flank and go for those squishy heroes that are very vulnerable and easy to kill. Once you've figured out kind of who you want to go for, you kind of want to wait for a right time or right moment, or just make sure that you have all of your cooldowns ready and kind of engage with your E. Now your E is going to do more damage up higher or like further distance away, and you're going for that maximum damage on it, and as soon as you hit them with the E, make sure to follow up with your shift after you use that E, and then use your gun in between and just kind of unload all of your ammo on that target. And then what you do is once that target is dead, or even if the target isn't dead, you want to make sure to escape as quickly as possible with your right click. Your right click is actually going to be your mobility move that you use to get yourself to safety. In this instance, I see that there is a Pharah who has a Discord orb on her, so an E and shift is going to do plenty of damage, and of course, since Pharah looks like she is kind of in a spot on the ground right here and she is not flying, I can assume that I could go in for this kill, or at least just try to do some damage on her and get out as quickly as possible. Another big thing about this is even though she is pocketed by a Mercy, as you can see from like the damage boost here, my team is pushed up pretty close. So if the Mercy goes for a res right here, my team can follow up and stop it, or at the very least maybe get the kill on Mercy, which could be pretty huge. So of course, because of the Discord orb, she is going to die pretty much immediately. I don't really need to use my hand cannons or my gun. Generally, you do want to use that with your combo because it's very easy to land on the targets that get hit by your shift ability because they can't really move. Some heroes, of course, are the exception if it's like a Moira who has Fade, you know, something like that. Generally, if a Discord orb is planted on an enemy, you are going to be able to kill them no matter what. The only real exception to that would be Orisa, and maybe Zarya because of her bubbles. So the next big thing I'd like to talk about are the rollouts. Doomfist has a lot of different places on different maps where you can kind of pull off these crazy engagements depending on where you are. For example, on Eichenwald right here, you can actually punch yourself over here onto these rooftops, and kind of depending on where you land, you can do a couple of different things. Your engagements with Doomfist have a lot of potential, and there's a lot of way to mix those things up. So what you can do is because your right click is actually such a low cooldown, it's only 4 seconds, it's a great way to kind of start this off. And once you kind of go over here on the rooftops, you'll be sliding around a little bit and you can kind of stall yourself for a short period of time. And while you do that, it's going to make sure that your right click cooldown is going to come back because it's so, you know, it's only 4 seconds. So when I do this punch right here, I could kind of sit for a little bit on here and just wait for my cooldown to come back. I of course can then use my shift ability. I can get stalled in this general area for a little bit, kind of wait for my cooldowns for just a short while, and then I can use my E. Because I'm up so high, my E is going to get maximum damage, and that's really what you're looking for. Unfortunately, I end up getting this Moira, and that's one of the things when you go for these flanks, you're not going to know where any of these people are going to be positioned. You can only kind of really guess unless your team kind of helps you out. And because there's a Pharah Mercy, that kind of cuts 2 people away from the equation completely, because you can't really get them with that unless you're really lucky and they're on the ground or something. But of course I go for it, I see the Moira, and normally that would be a kill, but because she has her Fade ability, she's going to get away safely. Anyways, knowing these rollouts as Doomfist is really going to put you ahead of the curve, and you're going to be able to get a lot more damage done, a lot more pick potential, get you ahead on the ult economy game, and all around knowing this it's not going to hurt, right? It's only going to help improve you as a Doomfist player and help you learn what his limitations are. So the other thing I'd like to mention real quick is even though you can deal a lot of damage and it may look like you can commit to enemies, like in this situation I have all of my abilities on cooldown, but the Symmetra is completely alone. You don't want to try and commit and engage on anybody, even if they look like they're vulnerable, with only your hand cannon. Your hand cannon is just not that good. It's a projectile. It spreads out pretty quickly at a distance. It's really just for up close, like really up close fights. Basically, if you're using your E-shift combo, your gun is very effective in that range. Other than that, it's not that great. You're probably not going to get kills with it. So even though it may look good if I push this Symmetra, I will probably die. You always want to get your cooldowns before you go into any engagement. So just dip out, re-engage, get set up for another big combo, and then just repeat the process. That is what Doomfist is all about. So here in this fight, I'm just looking for the same kind of thing that I'm always looking to do, and that's to get my E and shift off, and that's really going to do a lot of damage. And what you'll notice when you use your E and shift combo, you're going to want to do some pretty hard flicks. As you can see, I use my E, and even in this instance, I have to do a very quick kind of flick and basically do like a 180. And in order to get your combos off, you will be doing this kind of flick pretty often. So one of the things, I do this for a couple of different heroes, and I suggest doing it with Doomfist as well, is upping your sensitivity a little bit. So one thing I'd like to talk about now is your ultimate. Now your ultimate is pretty powerful, but it's pretty difficult to actually land kills with it. Generally, I save it for escaping or re-engaging, but there is also one other cool thing about the ultimate that I like to talk about, and that's using the full duration of your ultimate purely for the purpose of getting your cooldowns back. As you can see, you have a 4-second duration with it, right? And your right click is only 4 seconds as well. So if you wait out an entire duration of your ultimate, you're going to get your right click, your rocket punch back, so you can use it immediately in a fight. So if you did the engagement correctly, which you should be using the E and shift pretty much first every single time anyways, and then follow it up with your gun and right click, that's going to shave off those couple of seconds needed, so you should have all 3 of your cooldowns back by the time you use up the entire full duration of your ultimate, such as I do here in this instance. I have everything back right as that happens, and I'm able to kind of continue the fight and pick off the people with those abilities, because that is the most important aspect of Doomfist. Other things you can use the ultimate with, of course, if possible, you can use your ultimate to combo with like a Zarya Graviton, but that doesn't really happen all the time, so it's not something that you really bank on. Generally, you want to save your ultimate for escaping or using it to kind of reset your abilities. It's not really always a damage tool. A lot of heroes in the game are not going to die to it, especially anybody with mobility. If there's a Zarya, they can bubble. Even McCree can just roll out of the way and then just flashbang you and probably kill you, so it's not really a big deal. You do gain a little bit of shields, which is kind of nice. I mean, if you want a little bit more survivability, that can maybe keep you alive in an overtime situation. But one big thing that you should remember about the ultimate in an overtime situation, if you're the only person on the point, use your ultimate, you are going to come off the point, and then you are no longer contesting it, and then you can maybe even lose the game because of that. So when it comes to Doomfist, you can always be a very successful flanker, no matter what the enemy team comp is. I think you can pull off a lot of damage to the enemy backline. The big thing is patience and timing. As long as you have, full health, you have all of your cooldowns, you can really wait for the enemy team to move in or wait for your team to kind of move in. And you want to make sure that they're distracted and they're looking at something else, and that's going to give you a big chance at flanking. One of the things that I find a lot of people make mistakes with flanks is they don't wait for distractions. You're going to pull off flanks a lot easier if you wait for the enemy team to engage, or if you wait for your team to engage first. If you go in first as Doomfist, then chances are that the enemy team is going to have all of their resources, and it'll be very easy to kind of peel in that situation. However, if you wait for your tanks to go in, then they're going to be, the focus by the enemy team. So make sure for step number 1, let your team to get in there, and then you and your actions are step number 2. A big thing for you to look for with enemies is when they use abilities. So if you see an enemy like an Ana, for instance, and you see that she's using a grenade or a sleep dart, then chances are that she's focused on whatever she is using that ability or cooldown on. If it's just, gunshots, it doesn't really mean anything. Like if you see a McCree shooting at something, that doesn't mean you should go in. But if you see a McCree use flashbang, chances are they use that ability, that very important cooldown for a reason, and then that's when you should strike. So you kind of want to plan out your engagements in order to get those picks. You want to think of yourself, not as this constant damage, this constant DPS source, right? You're not like Soldier 76 who can just sit there and shoot at everything all the time. So here I wait for the Ana to kind of move in forward, and as you can see, the Ana also uses her sleep dart pretty early on, and as soon as that happens, and it's very clear she doesn't even see me because her back is completely turned, I'm able to just punch her and then kind of engage on whoever is next afterwards by using my abilities. Just using your abilities on a Winston or an enemy main tank, it's going to annoy them. You're not going to really always get the kills on them, but it's going to make them not be able to get space and not do their job properly for the rest of their team, which in a lot of cases is something that you're looking to do. Anyways guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.